Hi everyone, it's Dr. Damien. Today I'm going to take you through some key digital marketing metrics using Google Analytics. The best way to learn Google Analytics is sign up for a demo account for the Google Merchandise Store. The Google Merchandise Store is an online retailer that sells Google branded merchandise. We're on the page now, and as you can see, they sell fashion, bags and drinkware, stationery, other items. Now every page we visit on this online retailer is being tracked by Google Analytics. So the Google Merchandise Store is using Google Analytics to track your movements on the page. They're counting how many pages we visit, how long our session is going for, what items we add to the cart, and eventually how much money we actually spend. Now Google actually gives anyone permission to see the Google Analytics for the Google Merchandise Store. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to sign up for a demo account that will see the back end of the Google Merchandise Store. It'll allow us to analyze the number of sessions, the number of users, how much revenue they're generating, and where the traffic is coming from. To gain access to the Google Analytics demo account, you just need to type that into Google, and the first result that turns up will take you to a Google page, which will tell you about how they're providing the demo account to you to help you learn how to use Google Analytics. If you scroll down, you'll see a link that says Access Demo Account. Okay, that is going to provide you with access to the Google Merchandise Store's Google Analytics account. As long as you're signed into Google, you should go straight through. If not, you might need to sign in. Okay, so now I'm inside Google Analytics, and specifically, I'm looking at the back end of the Google Merchandise Store. So right now, we're looking at an overview of information about the page. The first thing that we might want to change is how much the day period our analytics are reflecting. So right now, we're really just showing the last week. So let's change that to the last 30 days. Okay, so we're going to look at the last 30 days of information. Okay, so what has happened on the Google Merchandise Store in the last 30 days? Well, we can see some key basic metrics on this first page. There's been 44,000 users on the Google Merchandise Store in the past month. Okay, of those 44,000 users, 42,000 of them were new users. It's the first time that they've been to the Google Merchandise Store. Of those 44,000 users, they actually conducted 57,000 sessions. So sometimes a user went back twice or more times, and they visited the site multiple times over the period, the 1 month period that we looked at. So on average, the number of sessions per user is 1.3. So over the course of the month, okay, the average user visited the site 1.3 times. Now, when a user visits the site during a session, they might not just visit one page, they might visit multiple pages. So the number of page views is obviously going to be a lot higher than the number of users. Even at the start of this video, I viewed many pages on the website, not just the first page, the home page that I arrived on. So as we can see, over the course of the month, the Google Merchandise Store has had over 230,000 page views. So if we divide the page views by the number of sessions, you can see that the average number of page views per session is 4. We call this the average page depth. So the average page depth for a Google Merchandise Store visitor is 4. How long are they spending on the site? Well, on average, they're spending 2 minutes and 49 seconds. This is our average session duration. So a typical session lasts 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Some will go longer, some will be shorter. And the final figure we have here is the bounce rate. Okay, so the bounce rate is the number of times that a new session is finished after the person has viewed just one page. So they arrived at the home page and they realized this is not what I was looking for, and they left. Okay, so they didn't stay around, they didn't look at other pages on the website. So the bounce rate for the Google Merchandise Store is relatively high, it's at 49%. So 49% of all users bounce after visiting the first page. They don't stick around. They're clearly not buying anything. They're just going to the home page and then leaving. So this is what we would call some of the basic metrics. It gives us a basic understanding of what is happening on the Google Merchandise Store during this pitch period. We can see it on a day-by-day basis and how it fluctuates. And obviously there is a bit of a lull during the weekends, and it picks up a little bit during weekdays. So that's pretty typical of a retail store. We can also see this bar graph here that shows the number of returning visitors compared to the number of new visitors. And we can see the language that most people are visiting the site in. So, the majority of users are visiting the Google Merchandise Store in English. In terms of the country of origin, as you could probably imagine, the majority of users are from the United States. But also there's quite a lot of people from India and the UK as well. And specifically, there's probably some cities, even within the United States, that are driving a lot of traffic. And New York, San Francisco, Toronto, in North America, but also London and Singapore, the hubs of IT are all driving a lot of traffic here. We could look by browser as well. So where are all our users coming from? What browser are they looking at it from? Now, this is a Google Merchandise Store, so there's probably going to be a little bit of bias for Google browsers. So Google Chrome actually is the highest number of users, with 76% of people who visit the Google Merchandise Store visiting using Google Chrome. Right now I'm using Safari, so I'm one of the 16%, but then we have the other browsers. We could also look at the operating system. Again, Windows users probably more favorable to Google than Mac users. So we see this higher rating here. iOS devices are a little lower than Android devices. Again, Google owns Android. We could look at it by a service provider. We could look at it by our operating system, etc. If you look on the tab here under audiences, you see a number of other ways of looking at the audience information. Let's just have a look at some basic demographics. So who are the people who are visiting the Google Merchandise Store? As you can see, in terms of gender, they are typically male, so more men are visiting than women. Sort of a ratio of 6 to 4, okay, 60% of men visiting the site compared to 40% of women. And there definitely seems to be a younger crowd visiting the Google Merchandise Store. So people aged between 25 and 35 are the key demographic. 18 to 24 is also quite high. We could look at this in more detail. Let's click on the age tab itself, and we can see for each age group, who is actually spending more time on the site, who is creating more sessions, who is bouncing more, only visiting one page, and who's sticking around longer. And can we actually look at the conversions as well? So who is spending more money? So the highest users of the site are those aged between 25 and 34. So we have over 8,000 users, 40% of the visitors over the period that we're looking at. And they created over 10,000 sessions, which is far more than any other than the other groups. The bounce rate for the 25 to 34-year-olds, is pretty similar to the other groups. They have reasonable pages per session of around 4. The 18 to 24-year-olds are a bit lower, so they're not viewing as many pages, and they actually have a higher bounce rate. In terms of average session duration, you can see that the total average here is around 3 minutes. That doesn't vary a lot by age group. And in terms of transactions, over the course of the month, the Google Merchandise Store has only had 10 transactions. Okay, so clearly Google's not making most of their money from the Google Merchandise Store. Okay, they're making money in other ways, but they're providing us with this data so that we can analyze it. So they've actually only sold 10 things on the store in the last month. Okay, and who purchased those things? Well, 3 of the transactions came from 25 to 34-year-olds, and they spent $300 in total. The total revenue was $700, okay? So then we could look at the conversion rate for each particular age group. And, it's quite poor all around, but I guess seeing as they made 2 transactions, but they're only a very small amount of users, the older group, actually, the 55 to 64-year-old group here, actually has a higher conversion rate than the other groups, okay? Although those conversion rates are pretty low all across the board. If you were an online retailer, you had those levels of conversion rates, you'd be very disappointed and be something that you really need to work on. But I have a feeling that most of the traffic being generated to the Google Merchandise Store is simply people like us who are visiting the Google Merchandise Store to have a look at it, to see the data behind it for the demo account. So they're not real potential customers, they're people who are looking at it because they're just curious of what the data reflects. Okay, so we've looked at the Audience tab. Now let's have a look at the Acquisitions tab. Under Overview of the Acquisitions tab, you find the various channels for which people have arrived at the Google Merchandise Store. So as you can see, the most common way people arrived at the Google Merchandise Store was through organic search. So they've typed in Google Merchandise Store into Google, and one of the search results that turned up was a link to the Google Merchandise Store itself. Of course, they could have typed in something else like Google Merch or Google Apparel, Google T-shirts, but the link that turned up that they clicked on was for the Google Merchandise Store. Not everyone arrived in that way. Some other people typed in the URL directly. So they might have knew www.googlemerchandisestore.com, okay? And they directly went to the website. Referrals are web links. So for example, the link on Google's demo account, which links back to the Google Merchandise Store, would be considered a referral. And social media are links on Facebook or YouTube, etc. We could also look at the bounce rate, okay? So of all of these channels, for example, which channel has the highest bounce rate? It's display. So the display ads that Google is running for the Google Merchandise Store are not working particularly well. One, they're not driving a lot of traffic. Only 743 people arrived at the website by clicking on a display ad. And of those 743 people, 73% of them only visited one page. So they clicked on the page, they didn't like what they saw, and they left. They didn't go through the process to add items to the cart and check out. 73% of them did not view more than one page. And for an online retailer, we can of course look at the conversions, okay? So we can see the number of conversions. Now there are only 11 conversions over the month, so we don't have a lot of data here, but we can see that for paid search, that was actually resulting in the highest number of conversions. So traffic from paid search, where someone has typed in Google Merchandise, and then a paid search ad has appeared at the top that says Google Merchandise Store, buy your Google Merchandise here, and they click on that link, they are the most likely type of traffic, the most likely type of individuals to actually go on and buy something from your store. We can click on the links here and get more detailed information. So for example, if I click on social media, then I can see specifically what social media sites are actually driving the traffic. So over 2,000 of my users came from social media, and the majority of them are coming from YouTube. So there are probably YouTube videos just like mine, which has a link to the Google Merchandise Store. Perhaps I'll put a link below. And they're driving traffic. 1,770 users for the month actually came from those sorts of links. Facebook, etc., are driving traffic as well, but not nearly as much. Now, as we look through, for social media, the bounce rate is quite high, 60%. Let's look at the pages per session. It's around 3, which is lower than our average of 4. They're spending 50% less time on the page than our average session user. And essentially they're buying nothing, right? So they haven't spent any money. So social media is probably not a very attractive channel for us for the Google Merchandise Store. Or perhaps a better explanation is that because of the demo account and the YouTube videos that help you understand the demo account, that most of the traffic is actually coming from that, not people who are actually interested in buying anything from Google, Google branded merchandise, etc. While we're in acquisitions, let's look at one more piece of information. Let's go down to Google Ads. I know that Google does run the occasional ad for the Google Merchandise Store. I think they do it mainly just to create data for us to look at within the demo account. Let's have a look at the search queries that people are typing in that are resulting in people clicking on our paid search ads and then potentially buying something on our website. So what's the number one search item? Google Merchandise Store here. 560 people clicked on a paid search ad because they typed in Google Merchandise Store into Google. Google Merch, Google Merchandise, Google Apparel, Google Shirts. You can see the figures below. How much did we spend? Well, how much did Google spend on acquiring these customers? They paid Google Ads $508 in total for the month. So they're actually moving money from the Google Merchandise Store to Google Ads to pay for the traffic that they've acquired through the ads itself. So how much did they pay? The cost per click on average was 38 cents. It was actually a little less for the Google Merchandise Store, which is driving most of the traffic, but more for other areas like Google Shirt. Okay, obviously there's probably other apparel companies that are using that information. So in total, they, we can look at the users, sessions, the bounce rate, people who clicked on the Google ad and then bounced straight away, the average page depth, and the conversion rates. The conversion rate for Google Merchandise Store is still relatively low, right? It only resulted in 4 transactions from those 560 clicks. But those 4 individuals, they did spend $251. So they generated, $91 here. Sorry, this is total. So the 4 transactions in total generated $251 in revenue. So this is not great for Google, to be honest. They've generated $251 in revenue from Google Ads, but it cost them $508 in Google Ads. So they actually lost $250 by running ads. But they're just doing this, I'm assuming they're doing this so that we have some data to look at. Up here you can see, they're probably not running a lot of ads early in the month, but then they open it up and they ran ads over the last couple of weeks. Okay. Another thing that I want to show you is under the conversions tab. So conversions are incredibly important for a digital marketer, and for an online retailer, we're really concerned about the shopping behavior. How many people are actually going through and buying something from our online retail store? So what we're looking at this page with the shopping behavior analysis is a marketing funnel for an online retailer. So it starts very broad. We have 57,000 sessions to the Google Merchandise Store over the 1-month period that we're examining. But of those 57,000 sessions, only 9,000 resulted in a product view. So only 9,000 sessions resulted in someone looking at a product that is for sale on the Google Merchandise Store. The other 47,000 just viewed the homepage or some other pages that are unrelated to something you could buy. So there's a huge drop-off. 81% of people had no shopping activity. Of those 9,000 people who actually looked at products, how many of them actually went ahead and added something to the shopping trolley, to the basket. Okay, so of 9,000 sessions, we can see here that 7,788 did not add any items to the shopping basket. So 82% of customers or visitors to the site, or let's say sessions, 82% of sessions resulted in no basket addition. Okay, then how many people actually did add items to the basket? How many sessions resulted in people adding items to the basket? Well, 2,000 sessions. So 3.7% of the total 57,000 sessions resulted in someone adding items to the basket. Now, I was one of those people earlier. At the beginning of this video, I added a hat to the basket, but I abandoned the basket. I didn't go ahead and make a purchase. So of those 2,182 people who added items to the basket, how many of them left that shopping trolley in the store and walked away? Well, 1,749 individuals actually abandoned their trolleys. Okay, they abandoned the shopping cart. So it's a pretty bad rate. A lot of people abandoning their shopping trolleys. Where are they abandoning it? Well, we can see that 946 sessions resulted in some aspect of checkout, where they said they were going to proceed to the checkout. But at the checkout process, 884 people actually abandoned the shopping trolley there. Okay, they didn't go through, they didn't add their credit card details essentially. So that's 93% of individuals, or 93% of sessions actually. 93% of sessions that entered with the checkout process didn't go through with actually making the purchase. So in total, only 62 sessions ended up with transactions. So this funnel, starts really broad and then gets really narrow, extremely narrow. And so your role as a digital marketer, is to try to expand the funnel and open the bottom of the funnel up and try to keep more people flowing through to adding items in the basket, to checking out, to actually entering in the credit card details and making the purchase. If we wanted to look at this in more detail, we could click on the Checkout Behavior tab. This is looking at the online retail funnel, but this time specifically for people who have already entered the checkout stage of the process. So we can see there are 782 individuals or sessions that have actually got to the billing and shipping page on the Google Merchandise Store in the month where we're looking at the details. Of those 782 sessions, only 529 exited that page and entered in the details of where they would like the items shipped to. So 67% of people dropped out when they're asked to enter in their delivery details. As you would expect, the dropout is also really high for the credit card information page. So 398 sessions got to the page where they're asking people to actually make the payment. But very, very few of those individuals actually went on and included the credit card details and processed that payment. Actually, 321 sessions dropped off. So 80% of sessions dropped off at the payment page, which is really something that they would need to work on. Another thing I want to show you is this Product Performance tab. So under the Product Performance tab, we can see the specific products on our merchandise store that are selling well. We can compare those. Maybe we want to think about which products we want to stock more of, which items we no longer want to sell, which items are our big revenue makers, etc. So this list by sales performance, in particular, we're looking here at product revenue. And the number one seller is a hoodie, a Google Sherpa zip hoodie in charcoal color. So Google has made $193 from sales of this hoodie. Those $193 has come from 4 unique purchases. Okay, so they sold 4 hoodies for a total of $193. So this is the biggest money maker in terms of goods. We can see it's spread out, I guess, over a lot of different goods. We could look at which goods are selling the most of. So 4 is not a high number, but 8 isn't particularly, in terms of quantity, 20 is not that high either. So they sold 20 laptop and cell phone stickers. But because the laptop and cell phone stickers are only selling for, on average, $3 per sticker, they're not making a great deal of money from these sales, only $60. Okay, while we're still on the e-commerce tab, I just want to show you how we can use the model comparison tool to look at the attribution of where the traffic is coming from. So here we have the last interaction, so the last click that resulted in a conversion. But we could look at, say, the first click of someone who is actually seeing an ad, a display ad, or some social media, and then that has resulted in a conversion. So the constant question is, who should we give credit for the purchase? Is it the last thing the person clicked on before they made the purchase? Or should we give the credit to multiple sources of channels, if they saw display ads, paid ads, organic search results? So I just wanted to show you this tab so then we can compare the difference. So we look at just overall conversions. It looks like the direct channel, where people are actually just typing it in themselves, is resulting in the most conversions. But that person obviously had to learn that the Google Merchandise Store actually exists somehow. So if we look at their first interaction, that number goes down significantly. And say, for example, organic search and organic search results actually increases. Referrals increase a lot, and so does other advertising. So if we look at first interaction, at the first time they ever heard of the Google Merchandise Store, that's changing the weight that we would give to the various channels. So, there's a tendency to give a lot of credit to the last click that the person made before they made the purchase. But if we continue to do that, then we often give too much emphasis to paid search and to direct, and we maybe underestimate things like display advertising. The last thing I want to talk about today is just to show you how you can use comparisons of different time ranges to really compare anything that we've talked about so far. So let's just go back to the audience tab and to the overview. And you can see that I had selected the last 30 days. Now I could actually make a comparison by clicking compare to, and maybe the previous period in the last year. And now all of the charts are going to update and show how my product performance has improved or decreased over the past month this year compared to the past month a year ago. Did I have more users? Did I have less users? And you can see that I've actually got less users, less sessions, less page views. Things are generally worse at the Google Merchandise Store in 2020 compared to 2019. And if we look through all of the different pages, you're going to see similar information. Okay, that's pretty much it. Have a look around on the site. There's some really cool stuff. You can see the live data, number of active users right now, for example, what people are looking on, how the Google ads are performing. We can look at things in real time, so where the people are coming from right now, what traffic sources, page views per minute, etc. It's really cool. There's a lot of great information on Google Analytics. Okay, so I hope that's a really good sort of introduction for you. I hope you start to feel a bit confident with Google Analytics. Definitely play around with it. I've really just touched on a few of the most important things and introduced some of the key metrics to you, but I'm sure you're going to get the hang of it. Good luck, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you later.